Today, we are talking about one of the most powerful and honestly kind of strange moments in the entire New Testament, the Transfiguration. You've got this blinding light, a voice coming out of a cloud. It's a vision that totally changed everything for the people who were there. So what really happened on that mountain, and why does it matter so much?
To really get this story, you kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of Jesus' closest friends. Just imagine, for a second, that the person you've literally bet your whole life on, the one you believe is going to save the world, turns to you and says it's all about to go horribly wrong.
Because that's exactly what happened. Just 6 days before our story even starts, Jesus drops his absolute bombshell on his disciples. He tells them, straight up, that he's going to suffer and be killed. I mean, this was the exact opposite of everything they were hoping for.
Yeah, they were completely floored. Can you blame them? This news about suffering and death, it just filled them with this deep sense of dread and despair. They felt like all their hope was draining away. And you have to understand this, because what happens next, it's a direct response to that fear. They desperately needed a new vision, something to hold on to.
So Jesus takes his inner circle. You've got Peter, James, and John, and he leads them up this high mountain, away from everybody else. And it's up there, in direct response to their despair, that they see something that just completely breaks the rules of reality.
Okay, this is where the story gets really cool. You have to see that the details here are not random at all. The writers are deliberately connecting this moment back to the Old Testament. Think about it. Moses goes up Mount Sinai, waits 6 days, and then sees God's glory like a devouring fire. Now fast forward. Jesus takes his disciples up a mountain after 6 days, and his face shines like the sun. Do you see the parallel? This isn't just a little nod to the past. The story is screaming at us that this event with Jesus is just as important, just as foundational as Moses receiving the entire law from God.
You know, it's pretty much impossible for us to even wrap our heads around how intense this light must have been. One writer tried to explain it with this amazing story. He visited this ancient tomb in Ireland called Newgrange, where for a few minutes a tiny beam of sunlight lights up this 5,000-year-old chamber. He said the feeling was so intense that a full day later he still felt like he had, in his words, literally been charged by a battery. Now imagine that, but 1,000 times more powerful. That's what the disciples saw. It wasn't just light, it was divine glory itself.
And if that wasn't enough, two of the absolute giants of Jewish history just appear out of nowhere, talking with Jesus. We're talking Moses and Elijah, and their appearance isn't random at all. It is packed with meaning. So let's break down exactly what's going on here.
Right, so here's the key. Moses, he represents the law, the whole foundation of their faith. Elijah, he represents the prophets, every promise, every foretelling of what God was going to do. And then there's Jesus, standing right there with them, basically embodying both. The message is just unmistakable. He's the one that the law and the prophets have been pointing to this whole time. He is the fulfillment of it all.
So Peter's just trying to process all this, and suddenly this bright cloud comes over them, and a voice speaks. And this is the whole point. This is the climax of the entire vision. The command is crystal clear. Listen to him. It's this massive shift. The authority now rests with Jesus. The definitive word from God is now his.
Now, this incredible spectacle, this whole light show, it wasn't just for dramatic effect. It had a very specific and very strategic purpose. So why? Why did this have to happen right at this moment?
Well, it really boils down to 3 huge reasons. First, it was a reveal of Jesus' true divine nature. The curtain of his humanity was pulled back for just a moment. Second, it was a sneak peek of the resurrection, a promise that death wasn't going to be the end of the story. And third, and this is maybe the most important thing for them in that moment, it was meant to empower them. It gave them a memory of this incredible glory that they could hold on to when they had to face the trauma of the cross.
The timing of it all was just perfect. A pastor tells this beautiful story about seeing hundreds of blue morpho butterfly pupas in Belize. He said that as the very first rays of sunlight hit their enclosure, at that exact, precise moment, they all started to emerge at once, just filling the air with this incredible beauty. The Transfiguration was just like that, an act of perfect divine timing, a glorious transformation revealed at the very moment it was needed most.
You know, Peter was so overwhelmed by this bliss that he wanted to stay right there. He says, hey, let's build some shelters. Let's just live in this moment forever. And you can't blame him, right? But that wasn't the point. This vision wasn't an escape. It was fuel for the journey. They had to come back down the mountain and walk that hard, painful road that led to the cross.
And that right there illustrates the real takeaway of this whole story.
It's not just for the disciples, it's for all of us. How do you hold on to a moment of light when you know you have to walk back down into the darkness?
For those disciples, this vision became a memory they could go back to again and again. When they were terrified, when they denied even knowing Jesus, when they were convinced all hope was lost, they had this memory of a man shining like the sun. It was their anchor. It was proof that a power greater than death was at work, and that the ultimate point of everything wasn't suffering, but glory and love.
Ultimately, what the Transfiguration does is it shows us that there is a love that glows, a light that the temporary dark powers of this world just can't extinguish. The vision confirms that we're all part of something so much larger, so much more powerful, and so much more permanent than we can even imagine.
So it leaves all of us with a pretty big question to think about. When we're facing our own difficult journeys, our own valleys of darkness, what is that glimpse of glory, that memory of light that we can hold on to that gives us the strength to just keep walking?